Hello, and welcome to the Tavern Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor of Tenkar's Tavern blog. And today, we have one in our series of Fireside Chats. We have Laramie. Laramie is probably best known as one of our Tavern Mensches over in the Discord server. You've possibly also met him at the Gamehole Con, if you've gone to Gamehole. Laramie, welcome.
I am your chief antagonist. Here we go.
There we go. The man that brings cider to the Frog God.
Well, you got to take your bartender, right? That's how that goes.
Dude, that's awesome. Normally, though, you're not supposed to, tip your bartender with buybacks of your own when he's behind the bar. Not that it stops me.
Hey, man, I like changing it up.
That's okay. No, please. I'll buy back my bartender. He'll leave his scotch right in front of me like I'm drinking it.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's the way it should be.
100%.
Well, Laramie, we are going to start you out with the 5 questions that I pretty much ask everybody. And then we will kind of sandbox it for a bit, if that's okay with you. All right. So, tell us about your first RPG experience.
I would have been probably 14, 15, junior high, and had some friends. I grew up in a town of about 800 people, and so we played at a friend's house in the middle of nowhere. And it was, hey, try this thing that he had. And he was a high school kid, but your age parameter was a little skewed when you're in a community that small. And it was, I still remember, first character fighter. I remember just the visuals of the storytelling, fighting, your typical 10 by 10 room, treasure chest, skeleton kind of intro thing.
Yep.
Would have been first RPG experience. My fantasy background, though, everybody's got all these great stories of playing RPGs with their old man. Mine, actually, credit where it's due, was a whiny kid at Christmas begging his mom for Hero Quest, and my dear mother having the time and patience to sit down and play that game with me for hours. So credit where it's due. That was mom bringing in the fantasy for me.
Wow, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. So there's both of them. That's right, Pex. My mom's the best.
Well, you see, with me, my parents, I should say, my mother did the shopping. I know that, but my parents gave me the player's handbook and the DMG and a high-end set of dice I still have. For my birthday, after I was introduced to AD&D by my friend Kenny, I don't know, like my birthday's in July. I was probably introduced. It was in the winter time, so it was either January or February, and I would borrow the books to read them at home, and my mother was just so happy that I was so into something and learning words that were very obtuse in the day before the internet.
On that, I do remember. So during again growing up in the Midwest, all of the cultural things from the coasts took a while to get to the center of the country. So we got the Satanic Panic kind of in the early '90s, and previously aforementioned mom. I remember one of our younger friends. Mom was completely convinced that he can't play this game because it's devil worship and stuff. And mom went and borrowed all my books. Say, hey, you're gonna borrow these. And she took them out in the kitchen with my buddy's mom, sat them on the table, and said, there you go. Point out the demon worshiping part of this. She said it's teaching these kids vocabulary, it's teaching them teamwork, it's teaching them math that I don't understand because they go.
Yep.
But there you go. Find the evil part of these books. And they had a nice long conversation, and that was the end of that. Jimmy never missed a game after that.
Now, see, we had the Satanic Panic a little late. Not late. I mean, it hit the city at the normal time. It hit my family late because my Aunt Norma, who was otherwise known as Sister Camilla, a Catholic nun who did not believe that Vatican II was right. So she was like full black habit, white coif. All you saw was like the center of her face and her hands. You never saw any other skin in that woman.
Are you sure your aunt wasn't a ghost?
No. I'm pretty. And the funny story about her is that she became a nun in her late 30s. Before that, she was a jet setter. So she was on the wild side before she became a nun.
Hey, each their own, I
Yep.
guess.
And she stayed. My parents were up in the Poconos, as was my younger sister, and I stayed at home. I was like, I don't know, 16, 17. And Norma was visiting to watch my grandmother, her older sister. My grandmother was going a little senile. It was a hot summer day. I had trouble sleeping in my room upstairs. I didn't have an air conditioner because I was, 16. So I went downstairs to the living room and slept in the AC. Well, Norma got bored that night, went into my room and started pulling all my D&D books out. And then promptly called my parents the next day to tell them I was in danger of being a Satan worshiper. My mother, God bless her, called me and said, listen, Norma's going to be there for another 5 days. Just do me a favor, because we were gaming every day. It's the summertime.
Absolutely.
She was like, your friends will understand because they've met Norma. Just play science fiction or other stuff in the meantime. She wants me to burn your books when I get back. She goes, obviously that's not happening. Just wait up to 5 days. I'm like, okay.
Just humor your aunt and go play something else.
Yes. But just try not to stir her up. Yeah, because like with you, my mother was just thrilled that I was reading and social, and junior high school and high school, staying out of trouble. She was very happy to have us have our weekly games or more often during summertime at the house here, because she knew where we were. Even my friends, she knew we were not. You weren't getting into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were socializing, and she was like, "Oh, great! You got a great, number of friends." We used to have a group of like 6 to 8 over, and she was thrilled by it. You're socializing,
problem solving, and being creative. Because by that point, this would have been, like I said, kind of early '90s, mid '90s, and everybody's playing video games. Mom was really happy that because yes, I played video games, but she was happy that was time I wasn't spending playing video games. It was time I was spending with actual human beings.
Right. No, that was on my end too. That was certainly my mother's throw. I don't think my father paid much attention, even at this point, what I do with the hobby.
Right.
But all right. Well then, I know you, so I know that Castles and Crusades is your thing, because I'm going to ask you.
See, you're wrong. You're wrong.
All right. What is your go-to RPG? What is your go-to RPG? What is your go-to RPG?
Hackmaster all day long.
Oh, you're right. Fuck. Why did I say Castles and Crusades?
I don't know, man.
That's because I woke up about 10 minutes before we kicked the shit off.
No, man. It's
Hackmaster. But now, is Hackmaster 5e? Is it 5e or 5e is really 2e and 4e is really 1e. Which Hackmaster do you mostly play?
Currently playing mostly 5th. We played 4th. So we played advanced. Much like I think a lot of people that kind of came into the hobby in the middle, I didn't understand all the D&D editions. So we played with a smattering of first ed, second ed, all of it, because for the most part it's all reverse compatible.
Yeah.
So I grew up playing all of that, and then 2001 era, 3rd edition books came out. I waited until all 3 of the core books had come out. Went down to the hobby shop, bought all 3, sat down, pretty much read the player's handbook for the most part, cover to cover. You gloss over some things. For the most part, read character generation and all that. Thumbed through the GM's guide, picked them up, and went, this is not a game I want to play. And I took them all down at this point I was in college. I took them to a buddy's room. He was interested in them, and I traded all 3 core books for a pile of Spider-Man comics.
Nice.
And that was my entire 3rd edition experience. And about a year or 2 later, Kenzer Co. came out with Hackmaster, and it got the Origins Game of the Year, which for being what I thought was just going to be a fun spoof game for pretty high praise. So I picked that up, and we ran 2nd edition or 4th edition Hackmaster, which is also compatible with all the old A&D stuff because it's brought off that same engine.
Right.
So we could take, your monster manuals or any of the splat books or even adventure modules, whatever you wanted to use. And so we ran that up until probably 4 years ago. And then started picking up the 5th edition stuff, and that is now my go-to RPG. But in your defense, I have played a fair amount of Castles Crusades.
Nah, dude, that's just cobwebs in my fucking head. I was just like, because we've had this discussion to some extent in the past, and it's like, how do I think Castles Crusades?
Well, I think you've probably got more than one thing in your plate involving things that are not just my life. So I've given you an easy free pass on that one. No worries.
No, all right, dude. It's not going to cost me, a cider next time around, will it? Okay.
I'll just drink one of yours before I get there.
Oh, I'll never know. Oh, dude, this 4-pack only had 3 on the shelf. I don't know what happened.
Hey, to be fair, the last 3-pack I gave you was a 6-pack before we got there.
That's please. It went down very well. I was certainly not complaining. I knew I should have turned that off. Yes. And then of course, in my background right now, somehow this turned on my YouTube in the background. So I'm hearing a Game of Thrones highlight thing. Oh my God. Yes, folks, we don't edit these episodes. You hear this shit live. This is what happens when your barkeep gets no sleep. Oh my God. And I've gotten pretty good at that because with the phone, because my son calls multiple times per day. But let's just say I talk to him more now that he moved out of the house than I ever did when he lived here, which is not a bad thing.
I don't know if I know what my ringer sounds like anymore. I work nights, and I've always just got the ringer off and it's set on vibrate. So
right.
I don't even know what my phone sounds like.
Well, that's pretty much my wife, Rach, because she always leaves her ringer off at work and forgets to turn it on even on the weekend. So we're trying to find, call her, and she's, I don't know, shopping somewhere else. It's like,
now in her defense,
I gotta ring. Yeah.
In her defense,
I gotta ring this.
Did she forget to turn it on, or does she really just not want it to be on? Because it's a pain.
No. She forgets. Yeah, and I understand it. I used to leave my ringer off. Well, actually, when I was working in an office on the job, I would leave my ringer very low. I don't. Now that I'm retired, I leave it very high so I can hear my phone no matter where I am in the house. But I used to always leave it just a few notches above silent, so there was a chance that I could hear it. But yeah. As always, that was fun. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. And race is class. I know Hackmaster is loosely based off of AD&D 2E.
Yep,
if I remember right. At least
correct.
At least Hackmaster 4.
Yep.
But race is class as a concept, as a play style. Where do you fall?
It is not my jam. I am very intrigued by I think it was actually one of these firesides you had with his name is going to escape me, the gentleman that does Adventure Conquer King, that went through and explained.
Oh, Alex. Yeah.
I couldn't think of his last name.
McCree.
Thank you.
I probably pronounce it wrong. One of those ways is wrong.
You cover your bases. I really liked his viewpoint on it, the way it deals with fantasy archetypes and his premise of having race classes instead of just pure race as class.
Right.
I have not got around to read. I've got my Adventure of Conqueror King sitting on the shelf. It is a book I'm eagerly waiting to rip into. Just haven't got the chance yet, but I really like that concept. But as far as pure racist class, I'm glad people enjoy it. Carl, I'm happy for you, man. Good for you. It's not my bag.
It's funny because, Adventure of Conqueror King, I think it's a very solid system, and I do like that take. Now, one of the earlier projects or products that I worked on for a very small publisher was, I think we called it demi classes, and it was racial classes. Like I did, like a halfling cleric, I forget whatever we called it, but it was a halfling cleric, a halfling fighter.
Sure.
Uh, it had spells and abilities geared toward what you would consider would be appropriate for a race that is mostly farmers, small towns,
Right. Yeah.
hamlets. And I like that take. It's you know what? It's not even available on drive-through anymore, and I have like bits and pieces of it somewhere on my hard drive. Because why would I? I wrote it. Why would I actually have a completed version of what I wrote? But yeah, I should go back to doing that at some point. It was fun, and Alex's take on it, I think, allows you to, as a DM, at least with your world building, to give reasons why there could be a dwarven caster class, but it would be, I don't know, maybe based on casting runes. It wouldn't necessarily be human centric classes, and I like that. It's a little work, but I like the idea.
Well, I think anytime you're going to make up a rule set, I'm going to be presumptive and assume that's probably a lot of work just doing that anyway. Even if you were, taking a project like you did and taking Swords and Wizardry and boiling it down to the bare bones, I'm sure is no small amount of work.
No, because firstly taking something that is already a simplified system and bringing it down to something that can be fit onto 4 pages without losing the feel
Right.
was not easy. I think that with those 4 pages, people can take that as an inspiration to, build up their own hacks. It's a very lean chassis to build off of, and I think that going forward, people will probably take advantage of that. But yeah, that is it's more work than I expected. I'll tell you that. I obviously haven't jumped on doing something similar again, but yeah.
But you have all this free time now that you're retired, so you got all the time in the world.
No. Just talk to Peck. Pex will tell you I don't have free time.
Apparently, Pex isn't anymore either, man. That boy's been busy the last month.
Yeah, no. Pex is going to be busy going forward too.
Brother's hopping.
Yes, Pex, it is true. We got to clone Pex. We got to clone Zach Glazer over for God Games, and we got to clone Pex. And then the world would be a better place.
Tenkar's Tavern Biosciences Division.
Yeah. Well, you never know, man. We have like nearly 2,000 members here. We might have some bioscientists that could do such cloning.
2,000 people. Somebody's got to be a geneticist.
Yeah. What are the odds? Probably not that good.
Probably not that great.
It's in theory, it could be, but maybe not. All right.
Why a betting man? I wouldn't put money on it.
No, I wouldn't either. Not unless you gave me really good odds. Like, I don't know, the Jets going to the Super Bowl anytime in my lifetime. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess they went in what, 1969?
I don't know, man. The Jets team I watch is Winnipeg, so
I'm
a hockey boy.
Yeah. I like, and we actually had this discussion at my local pub yesterday over lunch, that hockey is very much like soccer, except that it's on speed, higher scoring, and nobody fakes injuries. They're all legit.
I'm not gonna rip on soccer. I got some friends that really enjoy soccer, but as far as injuries go, I think it's the exact opposite. I really enjoy after the season's over, everybody comes out with our injury reports, and find out the guys we're playing with. There was a guy last year, the year before, had both his MCLs were out, still playing on him.
Ooh.
Yeah, just I as a healthcare person, I disagree with that mentality that I think you're doing yourself a lot of damage, but they have a very gladiatorial mentality, and it's just all go.
Yes. As opposed to soccer, where two people going for the same ball, they get tangled, and the one guy goes down like somebody kicked him in the shins with a stiletto. It's like, dude.
There was a great clip I saw a few years ago that was a coach, a soccer coach that got hit in the head with a paper airplane, and he goes down like he took sniper fire. And Barry Trotz, the coach for the Washington Capitals, got hit in the head with a puck, and he kind of turns his head about 15 degrees and then goes back to watching the game. And he puts his hand up on his head, pulls it down, there's blood. And he just keeps watching the game. He's just holding his hand on his forehead just to staunch the bleeding. Well, he's still watching the game because the game hasn't stopped.
Right. And just a different mentality going on. I mean, again, it's an Irish pub, so there's soccer playing.
Right.
They have to put it on one of the TVs, even if nobody's watching it.
But they play rugby too, man, and that stuff's off the chain.
Oh, rugby? Rugby or Gaelic football? Have you watched Gaelic football? Gaelic football is more dangerous than fucking rugby.
It's amazing. There's a phenomenal Irish Fest up in the Twin Cities every year that they do exhibitions of Gaelic football. Man, that stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, back when before I made sergeant, when I was still a cop up in the Bronx, my commanding officer, who was he was born in America to an Irish family who moved to Ireland until he was 18 and then came back. So he was American born with an Irish brogue.
Sure.
But he was also the captain of the NYPD's Gaelic football team. And
nice.
And he was the youngest to make captain in the NYPD's history. I think he made it just short of his 30th birthday or something like that. So and I talked to him. I used to be his driver once in a while, and I was like, Cap, you're in good shape. You're pretty athletic. Why you're young, ish. I'm surprised that you're not the one. You're the captain. I'm surprised you're not playing. He's like, well, lad, I've only got one kidney. I go, what? And he goes, oh yeah, I gave my sister my kidney 5 years. My kidneys 5 years ago. So my days of playing Gaelic football are over because you bruised your kidneys in that game. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ.
Hey, that's a big city move, man. Giving up an organ, that's no joke. That's the real deal.
No. He had a very tight family, and I think I met all of his family because he was just that kind of an individual. I mean, somebody who was going places and was in charge of a whole precinct, and at the same time, you'd be told, Eric, you're going to be taking the captain to I had to drive him off duty to some kind of promotion dinner celebrating some chiefs that got promoted to 3-star, and I was going to be driving him, so I had to dress like appropriate business attire. And so I've got the keys to his unmarked vehicle, waiting on him. And then the sergeant behind the desk goes to me, goes, Eric, you're taking the captain out tonight, right? I'm like, yeah. Do you know that he's wearing a pink shirt with little white polka dots on it? I'm like, you kidding me? He goes, no. So, and sure enough, he comes out of his office and he's got his pink shirt on with his pale blue tie, and he's got these horrible shoes because he has shoes that are from Europe, like
yeah,
squared front and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And as he's walking up to me, and this is right in front of the desk officer and in front of some other cops, I'm like, Cap, just because you're wearing pink doesn't mean that I'm going to give out. He's just like, oh, you motherfucker. Pink is a strong color. I like maybe in Ireland. It's like, oh fuck you, you drive. If you're nice, maybe I'll buy you a drink later. I'm like, oh jeez.
So let me get you guys have the New York Police Department has its own Gaelic football team?
Yep.
Because being a cop in New York isn't dangerous enough.
No, not at all.
The next level.
I also knew I knew another captain later on in my career who we used to call him spare parts behind his back because he used to play for the hockey team.
Yeah.
And he had so many discs in his back damaged that he was out for like 9 months for surgery. And when he came back, everybody's like, hey, spare parts. He's like, fuck you all. They had to put pins in him and everything else. Again, nicest guy. I found that anybody of rank that was involved in NYPD sports activities was a down-to-earth, solid person that cared about the people that worked with them and under them.
Sure.
There was a connection that they had. Those that didn't have that connection could be a real ass and full of themselves, but these people were down to earth and didn't make a difference that they were the executive rank. They were still solid.
I absolutely believe that.
But I knew a couple of people on the hockey team, believe it or not. Just the NYPD loved their hockey team. I went to see PDFD play a couple of years back. Nassau Coliseum.
Yeah, Islanders play there.
Yep. And I watched numerous fights break out, but not on the ice in the stands. And just PD, FD, that certain rivalry you get because both jobs are dangerous. One job is 5 days a week, 8 hours a day plus, and the other one is 2 days a week because they work in 24-hour days and 20-hour days. And for a lot of FD, being FD is your second career. Being an electrician, a plumber, a contractor is their first career. So there's a huge rivalry that goes on just beyond. It's like, oh, the battle of the badges. No, it's jealousy on the part of a lot of cops because they'd love a part-time schedule too.
I got nothing but respect for all you hooligans because I want no part of any of that. Fighting fires in New York, dealing with crime in New York, I want none of it. I am perfectly content to go to my nice hospital job.
Well, and it's funny too because in the years that when I came on cop until I retired, like FD, their responsibilities changed because now they are almost every fire truck has at least one EMT or paramedic on it.
Yep.
So now they are rolling to all ambulance cases to stop the clock until the ambulance gets there.
Right. Yep.
But PD, NYPD, rolls to just about every ambulance case also. So it's just a huge overlap of responsibility when it comes to people that need medical attention.
It's also a little bonkers. I got a buddy that works in Cook County in Chicago, and there's places where the EMT crew shows up and they are basically warned to wear headgear because they know that if the EMTs show up, they're bringing the cops with them, and people will just rain debris on them from above because they're bringing the cops with them.
Oh yeah, airmail.
That's insane.
Yeah, no, we call it airmail, and I experienced that on my first night on Footpost out of the academy, wondering why these ceiling tiles, like ceramic ceiling tiles, like for bathroom tiles, how they were landing around me as I was by the housing projects that were 20 stories tall until it was pointed out over the radio. I hear, in the confines of the 4-2 precinct, be advised, all Footposts, there is airmail in the vicinity of 163 and Webster Avenue. All units be advised, take protection. I'm like, oh shit, man, that's what's going on. It's not something that you're taught.
Like I said, man, that is, kudos to you guys. That is something I want no part of.
Yeah. It's one of those jobs that you learn fast or you don't learn at all. So I think I learned okay.
I think you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, some people don't have the ability to learn, and
well,
they go through their whole career dumbfounded and blind, and that's maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's like, oh well, at least they have no idea what they're doing, so maybe they're happy in their ignorant bliss.
right?
I don't know. Do not know. All right, well, let's move on to another question here then. Save or die. Not the podcast, but the actual, game mechanic.
Oh
Where
yeah,
do you stand on it?
I already gave Carl a shout out for the day. I I'm not a fan. I respect it in the confines of what it can do. I think if a GM wants to put a player in a situation where there is, life or death kind of situation, I think you can just do that with a certain, instead of it being just pure save or die. Why not just make it, 5d10 damage or something like that? It's not for me. Again, I respect where it's coming from. It's just not my flavor.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it. I'm not enamored with it. I think it's like spice. Very little bit goes a long way.
Yep.
And I don't like it to be random. I don't like it just, oh, that trap in the hallway, that's a save or die poison trap.
Yep.
Why? Really, what does it do for the story?
And again, I think
So
you
yeah,
can do. I think you can do it other ways. It is a nice. It's a hotkey. You can just push it and get what you want done. But like you said, if you put it in, once or twice a campaign just for the shock and awe value, I get it. It's not my way to go. It's not the path I would take.
yeah, no, I agree. Oh, I'm looking at Pex's comment in the text. Too many Johns in the world. That's why they call him Pex. The joke at my local Irish pub is that everybody's named John. The owner, the bartender, at least there's Kerry John, there's Jonathan, John the Greek. it's like actually like being a mob. John the Greek, Kerry John the bartender, John the owner. There's just a lot of fucking, and I'm probably missing a few, but these are the ones that I deal with on a regular basis. So yeah, there's a lot of Johns in the world. Yeah. All right, so you came into gaming in your teens. That seems to be like most of us, actually.
Yep.
Um, with that teenage you, looking forward, looking to where you're still active in gaming in your adult years, and it's a bit more than a hobby. You're pre-wired into our Discord server and such. What would that teenage you think, looking at what you're doing now?
Wait, you have how much? You have how much income? What are you doing with it?
Oh, you're spending it on what? Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah. I think, and I think this is not uncommon at my particular place of employment. People will sarcastically say, living the dream. And I've pointed out to a lot of people that we all say that sarcastically, but man, I am. I've got a pretty healthy gaming habit. I've got a pretty exceptional, just, home life, work life, everything. And as far as that goes, as far as what I do in the hobby, I'm definitely not the creator that a lot of the guys here are. I'm happy to be a contributor financially to a number of those projects, as opposed to actually putting out my own content. But no, man, I'm excited to be in the gaming industry where it's at, and I am. If you would have asked me 20 years ago that this is where gaming was going, and all of these hobby corner kind of guys making their own thing and cutting out their own corners, and what self-publishing has been able to do, whether it's through drive-through RPG or uh, Kickstarter or combination thereof. I think it's awesome, and I'm glad we are seeing this complete wealth of of gaming material. And even if you're only enjoying 5% of it, the sheer volume of it is something I couldn't have even conceived 20 years ago. So I'm really excited for what's going on.
Well, that's certainly accurate because my gaming shelves are mostly filled. Well, I should say mostly filled. Half of it's probably from my first, I don't know, nearly 20 years of gaming, and the rest is probably over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
It's just there's so much coming out. There's so much good stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I buy, and I used to keep a pile of this is what I will read next, and now that's become just like 2 shelves worth of this is what I read next.
Yep. And I need to take a year off just to catch up on reading, and that's a really nice problem to have. I really cannot complain.
Oh my god! And the dog, he's sneezing. God bless you, dog. Yeah, you okay now? I thought when I retired, the first thing that I would do, this is the idea, was I was going to watch the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. I was like back to back, 2 days marathons, nothing but beer, chips, and Tolkien. And yeah, that still hasn't happened.
When did you retire?
I started running time St. Patrick's Day of 2016.
Yeah, you're a little behind schedule.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I just find that there's too much on my plate. I thought I was gonna play a lot of my Xbox and my PS4, and I think my PS4 has been turned on the last year and a half, and my Xbox was off for a good year and a half. And now I'm using it mostly to watch Netflix in the living room. And it's not that I don't like the video games. Don't get me wrong, I do like them. It's just that I don't know if I'm binge watching stuff on Netflix, whatever it is. Like right now, my latest binge watch is The Blacklist. I can find stuff in there that I can say, hey, I can write this down, and this is a thread that I could always pick up in one of my campaigns if I run it later. It's inspiration and stuff like that. I don't get inspiration from video games. I just put my head up and go, holy shit, I've been playing for 3.5 hours straight. I never moved, didn't get anything to drink, didn't take a leak. What the fuck just happened? And to me, it's such an unproductive use of my time. If I'm going to be unproductive with my time, I'd rather nap. I'm serious. I feel more refreshed. And
to Pex's point there, I think that's the key. Is it's one of those things you never find time to do. You make time to do things. And again, I am a little bit outside of a lot of geek culture in the realm of video games. I haven't played video games in probably over 15 years. I was early 2000s, and I was kind of in and out of college for a while, so I was back in college at this point, and I didn't have money for it. And, $50-$60 a game, and something had to go, and it was either going to be beer. That's not going.
No, beer's not going anywhere.
And so it was going to be, especially in college, so it was either going to be my video games, RPGs, comic books. And I went, RPGs are really pretty cheap. Not how much money I put into it now. At the time, you can get by with a pencil and a pad of paper.
Yep.
And then comic books or video games, and it was which one I think I got more enjoyment out of. And man, I love comics. So I got into video games, and it's just a thing I've never gone back to, which again is not to disparage people that really dig it. It's a well I never went back to.
I went through a number of years, like when I stopped regular gaming, basically when I got out of the police academy and I no longer had weekends off, and our group kind of, took a hiatus that is still in effect. We wound up moving on to EverQuest on the computer. I
Sure.
was a late addition to that. When I came in to that, like my friends were all playing in it before 9/11. I didn't
Yeah.
get into it until after 9/11, and I know that because one of my friends that from my old group that was playing EverQuest, we lost on 9/11. So once I got into massive multiplayer online RPGs, it was dangerous. And when I say it was dangerous, many of my friends before high-speed internet was common were getting second phone lines so we could
Yeah.
talk to each other, or talk to at least one person, right? Or
Right.
yeah, and then I knew I was done. I knew I was totally corrupted when EverQuest put out the Kunark update, and I could no longer play EverQuest because the update required a stronger video card than I had, and I had to buy a new video card. And I was at Best Buy or Circuit City, whatever it was, like the next day, buying this card. I mean, on dial-up, it's taking like I don't know 12 hours to update the Kunark update. And I was like, oh man, I am so fucking done. I mean, and then it was Anarchy Online, and then when high speed internet hit, and we got like that, I don't know, 5 megabyte upload speed on the local cable. It was now every Saturday and most Sundays. There we are, headsets, yelling at each other in EverQuest. It was addictive and so much fun. But I didn't realize. I think the step that got me to the point that got me to step out of it was EverQuest 2, because I learned a great hack in EverQuest 2. My character was making gold hand over fist by I guess it was like a gathering creating deal, but I was basically vending stuff that people needed. But to vend, you had to be logged into the game. Your computer had to be online at this point. They changed it later. And so I would get up in the morning before going to work and log into the computer and get myself out there, and then I come back and there'd be another 1,000 gold in my
Yeah.
account. That's great. Until I got my electric bill. And when I got that electric bill, it was just like, holy fuck. It was over double what I would normally pay. And I was like, why the hell is it? And I went, oh, well, I guess my computer being on nearly 24/7 is probably what's doing it. And that's when I started taking a step back. And I don't do the MMOs anymore.
And I know you've kind of touched on this in the past. I think part of that has also been as far as filling that particular void, because time is precious and getting people to all meet up at the same time is a challenge. And This is the first time in a long time that I haven't had a face-to-face table game. For years, my in-house game was me and 5 of my buddies at the table. One of my buddies now lives in New Hampshire, so we started having everybody else show up at the table, and then we just ran Google Hangouts video and put Jimmy on a television at the end of the table.
Okay.
And then I just ran all the maps through Fantasy Grounds, so everybody's seeing the same thing. Jimmy sees it, everybody else sees it. We're all kind of, and it let me draw a map ahead of time, which is advantageous for me. But now I don't have that in-person game. It is just online. But I think it kind of fills that same area where you and all your buddies can put on your headset. You can throw Cheetos at each other virtually and all those things. And it just works out better for us that way now, because being that time is hard to come up with, setting aside an entire evening is a challenge. But we just get together. We play from 9 o'clock to midnight. Everybody's families are kind of settling down for the night, and it's an easy enough time to just set that time aside without losing an entire day to it.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because like my old gaming group, we get together once a year in person. We're on an email chain daily, When 5e was out for maybe like 2 years, they started getting the itch to game again. One of my friends picked up the rules, and he's like, "Eric, you gotta run games for us again." I'm like, "Okay, well, if you want to do it face to face, we could probably do it about once a month." He goes, "No, we want to do it like when we played EverQuest." I go, "What the fuck do you mean?" He goes, "We want it on demand, basically. So we want us to be like, all right, hey, are we all free in half an hour? And we can pop in for an hour and a half?" I'm like, "Dude, you're welcome to play however you want. I cannot run games on demand." That as a DM, it's one thing to pop into an MMO where everything is being done for you.
Right.
It's another one to have somebody as a GM suddenly have to prep or get into that mindset of running a game. I could not do it. They actually tried it, I think, for a couple of months, and I haven't seen it pop up in the email thread again. So in the last year or so, I don't think that it lasted very long. But I'll ask him personally when we hang out at the end of this month. But,
Yeah, that's a pretty tall order.
yeah, and I told him, I go, "Listen, I'm more than happy to run it. It won't be 5e. It would be Swords and Wizardry, a rule set that I don't have to even refer to during the game. And it has to be something that we schedule in advance. It could be, twice a month. Like, oh, but again, it's like we want to play it like we play our MMOs. I'm like, well, then play an MMO because
It's a different itch.
yeah, but we've gotten together every year since 9/11. We get together usually late May, early June for beer and chips and video games. And every year I've brought something gaming related for everybody. I got to figure out what to pick up for them for this year. Just to pay tribute to how we came together back in our high school days. And that is really amazing that I'm still in touch with people that I gained with, my God, 30 plus years ago, 35 years ago.
Now that you mention it, my pseudo face-to-face group that we still play online now, but it was my face-to-face group. 3 of those guys are high school buddies.
Yeah.
The joy of the modern era. Keep in touch across coast to coast.
Yeah, I mean, it's our email group, and that's we talk Game of Thrones, and they talk a lot of the latest, I don't know, video games that they're playing. It's my original gaming group, and it's a couple of guys that were part of their EverQuest group, but now that's still going back. That I've known these even the people that are newer to the group I've known for, I don't know, 18 years,
yeah,
or longer. And the interesting thing is, 2 of them live out by Dallas, so when I go to Texas, so every couple of years we hang out. And they gave us a tour of Fort Worth and the meatpacking, or the whatever the cattle area of Fort Worth. That was the first year we went. It's nice making those connections. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
And gaming is great for those connections. And I think when it comes to gaming conventions, that's where you get the chance to meet people in person that you already know, like us. Yeah, right. It's like meeting you in person wasn't like, oh, I'm meeting Laramie for the first time. It's like, oh, this is great. I know Laramie. I finally get to shake his hand.
Absolutely. I didn't do conventions for years, so I went late '90s. A buddy of mine took me to some fairly it was state-sized gaming convention, and it was all whatever the organized play thing D&D ran was at the time. And I sat down and I played, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 sessions. Man, this is just not a game I want to play. It's so strict and rigid, and I mean, you're running a module, so by definition, it has to be on the rails. and all your equipment's a certificate. And well, yeah, but I want to take that one thing out of there. Well, yeah, you can't because it doesn't have a certificate. That's not the point. It's just a cool little. It's a token that I took out of some guy's house.
Right.
And it just, yeah, that's not my game. And again, it's cool that people enjoy it. It's just not for me. And so I just didn't go to conventions for years and years and years, with the exception of some buddies and I run what we like to call Cheap Con. It is a bunch of my buddies that used to go to Winter Fantasy, and then Winter Fantasy moved out to a coast. They couldn't afford to go anymore, so they started running games in my buddy's basement. And then it grew out of that, and it's now, I think last year we had, at the point we had the most amount of people at a given moment, I think we had 65 people in the building.
Wow.
And yeah, it has become I believe the kids refer to it as a thing. And it's CheapCon because the entrance every year is whatever year number the event is in cents. So this year is CheapCon 17, cost 17 cents to get in. We are lucky to be in a community center that a buddy of mine lives in a housing development for, so we don't have to pay overhead for that. And it's basically just, we all get together, a group of us all run games. Anybody that wants to run a game, we're welcome to. And we play Thursday. We are on 3 slots a day, 4 hours apiece, starting Thursday morning through Sunday afternoon. And that was my only convention for years and years, up until a couple years ago. I kept on hearing all these great things about Gamehole. So a couple years ago, I started going to Gamehole, and that is definitely my speed. It's casual, it's relaxed. You can wander around, you can have a drink, you sit and shoot the shit with your buddies. It's just a hoot. I'd really like to make it down to North Texas sometime, but I am fortunate that with 2 young children, I am lucky enough that I get away for one long weekend.
I'm sure.
I don't think I'm going to press my luck with 2 at the moment, but North Texas is definitely one of those things that's on my radar to hit.
Yeah, North Texas is a very special place, and they all are. They all have. When I say all, the 3 major ones that are OSR themed all have something special going for them. With North Texas, it's the size. It's a smaller con with the same number of special guests. So you can walk up to any of these, historical figures in gaming or current people like Jeff Talanian, and just start a conversation with them. They're there for you to talk with. Gamehole is extremely well run, extremely well organized, and if you're staying at the hotel that's attached to it, my wife gets to go exploring in Madison anywhere within 3 miles. The hotel shuttle takes her. So
nice.
Rach just to explore. Gary Con is at the old Playboy Club or States or whatever. And it's got a great atmosphere. It's maybe not quite as organized as its Gamehole, but the history is amazing. The gaming history that you really feel a part of is just can't be beat.
Well, and I think a lot of that
they're all special.
I think, I was gonna say, I think a lot of that is what an individual brings to the situation. And I hear a lot of guys talking about going to something like Gary Con, and it's a lot of people there to just have a good time, have fun, have a good weekend. And while I've heard a lot of people that have complained about the organization, but all those guys are, I really wish this would have been better, and I wish that the login situation would have been better, and this and that. And that's unfortunate, but whatever. I'm still going. It's not. It's a minor irritation, but it's not as though it's severely to their detriment.
Well, at this point for me, I don't really go. I'll run games because Frog Out Games has me running games, but I don't go to playing games as a player. I'm going to these conventions to meet the community, meet the Taverns community and beyond. To me, that's where I take my joys at, and it's
social.
Been awesome. Yeah, it's a chance to socialize with my gamers face to face. My gamers, they're mine, all mine.
I refer to, if any of my coworkers ask me what I'm doing on a weekend like that, I just say nerd convention. and that puts an end to all the questions. They're content with that response.
Yeah, see, I've actually said gaming convention and like, oh, you gamble? No. Let's try this again. You know, and then you go Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, listen, the best, I guess, kind of story I have on this, and I'll try to make it quick. But I served jury duty a year and a half ago, and I got picked for one of the panels to be questioned, and they get to me, and they're like, "Oh, so it says you're retired." I'm like, "Yeah." What are you retired from? Like, yeah, NYPD. I left as a sergeant, and what your assignments, yada yada yada. What do you do now? I'm tired. He goes, "Well, but you have to be doing something." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I kind of semi freelance for a gaming company." It goes, "Gaming company, like again, like gambling?" I'm like, "No, like Dungeons and Dragons." And now the guy, like, he sits up, he was like slouched over the table before he goes, "Dungeons and Dragons." I'm like, "Yeah, so what do you do?" I go, "Oh, I've written a little bit of, little product, little set of rules, and I get to go to 3 conventions a year. Company pays for the food, the hotel room, my convention fees." He goes, "So let me get this straight. You wrote one thing, and this is what you're getting down." Like, yeah, I gotta work the table for vending." He goes, "All right, so and this is what you're doing in retirement, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I want to retire like you."
Hell, man, I want to retire like you. That man's not wrong.
No, it was actually it was very sweet. Got a couple of people on the panel laughing, and then of course, like, "Ah, shit, they picked me." I thought the moment I was like, "Oh, retired cop and a goofy gamer? We don't want this guy." No, they picked me. Damn it. Well, sir. We actually went from questions to sandbox without even transitioning. It was so smooth.
Hey, man, if there's one thing I am, it's smooth.
Well, there you go. Oh. I don't know. I don't know how. I really don't know how smooth I am. I certainly have 2 left feet when I dance, but I'm a lefty, so maybe it's better than 2 right feet. I'm generally not smooth, but just so you know, I'm not sure exactly when this episode's going to go up, but it probably be right before or right after our 365th episode. So yes, and before this week is out, the second year of Tavern Chat will have started.
I'm going to throw in your questions at you then. So you've almost got a year in on the podcast daily. You've got, I think you had a post the other day saying you've got nearly 10 years in the blog.
Yep.
What about teenage Tenkar? Could you fathom the influence that you have managed? And not like you're, swaying everyone's lives, but you've got a good following. You've got a pretty phenomenal community and crowd. What about teenage Tenkar to where he's at
now? Teenage Tenkar would be looking at this and saying, "You did all this and you never had to move out to Lake Geneva? How the fuck did that happen? I mean, how did any of this come to pass like it has?" And I think the teenage me would not be able to comprehend the change, comprehend where I'm at. Teenage me would be like, "Nah, teenage me wouldn't even have thought that I would have become a cop. Teenage me thought I was going to be working for the phone company. All right, so follow my father's footsteps, and it almost came to be.
My dad worked for the phone company.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a lineman.
Yeah, my father worked inside on the frame and the switch.
Right on.
But yeah, true story. I had tested for cable splicer and cable splicer assistant. 4.5 months into the police academy, I get an early morning phone call on a day that I'm working a 4 to 12 in the academy, and it was Bell Atlantic at the time. It was Bell Atlantic calling to tell me that I was being hired as a cable splicer, and I was starting the following Monday. And I was like, no. If you had called like 2 months earlier when the gym was killing me and I had shin splints, she's like, what? I go, I'm in the police academy. You can't offer me 4 weeks of vacation to start, can you? She's like, no.
Nope.
You can't offer me a pension of 50% my salary for the rest of my life when I retire with healthcare, can you? She's like, we're not that good, not 20 years. I'm like, and you don't offer me the ability to carry a gun, do you? She's like, no. So I go, I'll have to pass.
But
I was,
man, like you were saying, it's weird to think where it's at now compared to, you're right, like 25 years ago, everything flowed through Lake Geneva.
yep.
It's a lot of industries are like that. Again, I'm a big comic book guy. If you wanted to go work for Marvel, you were moving to New York because that's where everything went through. And now, like we were saying earlier with small press and everything else and being able to just transfer everything instantaneously via internet, you can live wherever you want, man. Like you can just get it done.
Yeah, you're totally right on that, man. And it's amazing. Again, if you had asked me 10 years ago when I kicked off the blog if I ever thought it would be successful and influential, I would have been like, no fucking way. If you asked me when I kicked off the podcast if I thought I would be consistently doing daily episodes and doing interviews like this, I don't think I could have done that either. Wouldn't have believed it even a year ago. If you asked me if the Discord server would be as successful as it is, it's all these things coming together in a perfect combination.
Yeah.
And really, it can't be beat. It really can't be.
And again, like you kind of hit on earlier, man, the community itself is just phenomenal.
Oh, it's an amazing community, and really, I couldn't be happier being a part of it. And this is coming from somebody who spent 20 years in law enforcement, and that is an amazing community. It's very tight. You have to be, and everybody is helping each other. Even people that you personally dislike on one or more levels, when it's true need, when it's a family member that needs medical care that isn't being fully covered by insurance or whatever these issues are, they come together. And then it's the same thing in gaming, and the transition between the two, it's remarkably small, and I feel very comfortable. So it's all good. I'm very happy.
Right on. It's amazing. You've done a hell of a job, Barkeep.
Don't ask me how to repeat it because I have no idea how we got here, but I'm not complaining. Just as I've told people, in the past, if you want to be a successful blogger, you got to blog. You just gotta do it. You just can't talk about it, and you got to be passionate about your subject. And I'm passionate about gaming, and I'm passionate about our community. So I might not always be spot on and perfect with what I do, but I think the overall is pretty.
Well, I think there's, as far as perfection goes, sure, but I also don't think. I think there is a space where you also have the acknowledgement of accepting the fact of errors that have been made. You look your mistakes in the eye and you own them, and I think that also carries a lot of weight and has ended up with you in the position you're in because you are not a person that takes an error, deflects it, and says, "Oh, I was misunderstood," or "Oh, I was taken out of context." No, you look it in the eye and you say, "Yeah, man, I fucked up, and we're gonna do better." And you just keep doing better. And as long as you keep doing better, that's how improvement happens.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I actually learned that from my my commanding officer, my captain, that with the one kid named the Irishman, because he would stand behind you on just about. I mean, I watched him literally on a phone tell a 1-star chief to go fuck himself. Not in those words, but much more politely. Protecting 2 of his cops that had, done what he asked of them, but the borough didn't want summonses being written to prostitutes or whatever it was. And watched my captain, because these guys fell on the sword. They accepted whatever's going to happen. He's like, Chief, I changed their detail. They report directly to me. So if you want to be able to put them on paper, you're going to have to put the commanding officer of the forward precinct on paper, because I'm not doing it. And because he allowed these guys, and they did what they thought he wanted. They meant well by it, but they were wrong, and they took responsibility for it, and they fell on the sword. And as such, our captain basically said, I'm not going to hurt these guys, because they owned up to their mistake. They manned up. And I've always respected that, and I've always looked at that, and, you can hide from your mistakes, but they're always going to haunt you.
No, you can't.
If you don't own them, they're always going to be in the background, eating away at your soul. So fucking own it.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. I am certainly far from perfect. And there's no instruction book on how to, I don't know, be influential in an online community. There's no book that tells you the ins and outs. It's all, by trial and error. So if I didn't own my shit, I'd always be called on my shit. And again, I know I'm not perfect, and the best I can do is the best I can do. And that will definitely mean that I will fuck up at times. Part of the process.
But part of that is also, as far as you getting called out on your shit, that's kind of part of how you've gotten to the position you are, is just keeping everybody honest. If you weren't accepting your own errors, someone else would be pointing them out for you, because that's, I think the gaming community has to be responsible for doing that. And I don't want to get into all the drama of everything that's happened with, this personality or that personality, but that's part of what it is taking, you kind of got to self-police, because if you don't self-police, the entire community falls apart.
No, and you're certainly right on that. And we could go really deep into this, and we probably could, and maybe later on we will. But I gotta go to physical therapy.
That sounds like a great idea. You hit that PT, man.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because when I retired, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great," and all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, I'm retired, and parts of my body are slowly falling apart." Jeez, this is what old age is about, right? I go, hit your 50s, and now it's like having your car, and it's like, oh damn, now I need new brakes. I've had it for how many years? Oh, now it needs a tune-up. Oh, jeez, now the brake light's going off, and that's and I replace a headlight. Yeah, I'm realizing that's what happens to the human body. So
the key is to make sure it's falling apart slowly. If it's falling apart fast, you got issues. Just make sure you keep falling apart slowly.
No, I'm working on the slowly part, but we'll see. Well, Laramie, listen, thank you. This was really good, and like I said, we could probably have gone on for at least another 30 minutes. Would have been our longest episode yet, which means that we'll have to reschedule you for more sandbox conversation that is geek and gaming related, because we do it so well.
Apparently.
Yes.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for having me, and I will see you. If I don't talk to you before then, I will definitely see you at Gamehole.
You'll see me in the Discord server.
Like I said, we'll talk, I'm sure. But
yeah, we'll talk. All right, folks. As always, stay safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. And we'll be back tomorrow. Later, folks.